Hi everyone, this is Sarah from the Youth Services Department at Washington Centerville Public Library. This is Will. He's going to help me out today with the two experiments we're going to do. The two things we're going to do today is looking at chemical reactions, and they're both kind of colorful science experiments which make it extra fun. The first one we're going to do sort of an old school one. You may have seen it before. Sometimes it's called the lava lamp experiment. For this one, what you'll need is some vegetable oil, some Alka-Seltzer, water, and food coloring. So the first thing you want to do is fill a bottle with about 2/3 of the way up with vegetable oil. And then your next step is to fill it the rest of the way with water. As I'm pouring the water in there, you can observe where it's going. All right. And we see how the water is sinking to the bottom. It's traveling through the oil and going to the bottom of the bottle. That is because water is denser than oil, so that means that it is heavier. These two do not mix. So even if I put a cap on this and shook the bottle up, the oil and the water would still separate. So to demonstrate this a little better, I'm gonna add some food coloring. And we can see the food coloring wants to attach to the water. It's sinking down towards the bottom rather than mixing in and changing the oil to red. So right now it's sort of sitting right in between them. Okay, and this is where the lava lamp name comes from. So I've got some Alka-Seltzer tablets. I've broken them into 4 pieces, 2 tablets here. And Will, can you hold the light up? Mm-hmm. Will's gonna hold light for us, just so we can try and see the reaction a little bit better. So we're gonna drop the Alka-Seltzer in. And we'll see that it is starting to bubble up and mix with the red food coloring. So these bubbles are where it gets the lava lamp name. But so those Alka-Seltzer tablets, they're releasing carbon dioxide when they mix with the water, but that does not want to mix with the oil, so it's creating these bubbles that are traveling through the oil and up to the top. So the more we add the Alka-Seltzer tablets, it'll keep bubbling. However, if you stop adding them, it will eventually stop, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Get a different view here. So see all these bubbles traveling through. We'll come back to that in a minute and see how it looks once the reaction has died down. So what I'm going to do right now is set that to the side. Now we're going to look at a different reaction. For this experiment, you just need some vitamin D milk, food coloring, Q-tips, and some dish soap. So what I'm going to do is pour this milk into a bowl. You don't have to use a whole lot. Coloring drops just in here. So first I'm gonna just show you, this is a Q-tip, or here, well, why don't you do this? This Q-tip has nothing on it. It's no dish soap or anything. If we just stick it in there, we don't really see any reaction. If we stirred up the milk, the food coloring would all mix together, but we don't really see much of anything happening. But so now what I'm gonna do is I've got a little bit of dish soap here, and I'm gonna dip the Q-tip in it. And touch the surface of the milk. And we saw what happens, kind of chases it away when we stick that Q-tip that has the dish soap in here. It makes these kind of cool looking swirls. That happens because the dish soap wants to go after the proteins and the fat that's in the milk. You see these little bubbles coming up and stuff. This will look different every time you do it. You can do it with lots of colors. You can do it with one color. Sometimes it's fun if you wanted to stick like a cookie cutter in there. It'll outline itself around the shape of the cookie cutter. But it creates kind of those neat little swirls. All right. And then just real quickly, we'll go back to our first experiment, the little lava lamp here. So we can see the reaction has died down. And all the color has mostly, we've still got some bubbles up here, but all the color has mostly sunk back down to the bottom. So what's a fun thing to do, you wanna make sure your cap is screwed on tight. So it sort of creates this like blob of color. You can like make a wave with it. Or if you want, you can always add more Alka-Seltzer. But even shaking this up, we see this blob of water will not mix into this oil. All right, that is all for today. If you have any questions, you can always comment below and I'll be happy to answer them, and we'll see you next week.